Hi, my name is Ronald Layman. I'm from the Faux School in Frederick, Maryland. Today I'm going to show you a technique that we call Spanish plaster. So let's get our tools, let's get our materials, and let's get started. First thing I've done to get ready for this finish is I've base coated the surface with the Quartz primer because we're working with lime. So Quartz is the proprietary primer that we need to use for this so we don't have delamination issues. Quartz is an acrylic-based primer. That means it's made with acrylic resin and other properties, but it cleans up with soap and water. It's interior, exterior, so it tints with pigment and never paint. Pigment is highly concentrated colorant that goes in and gets you the color you're trying to achieve quicker. Paint is not a highly concentrated colorant. Paint, if you try to tint the primer with paint, you're going to ruin the primer and it won't work. So pigment only, and we can do any color. I rolled this on earlier with a 1/4 inch nap roller. So now part one of our technique. Our high quality stainless steel means it has less carbon in it, so when we go across the surface we don't have a chance, or we have a lower chance of black carbon deposits. Has a very nice tapered edge. This is for our high polished filtered plasters. Very expensive trowel, treat it properly. Now the plaster is the Grasello lime base, interior, exterior. Tints with lime compatible pigments because certain pigments can have an adverse reaction to lime, and the color can just dissipate quickly, disappear, fade quickly, whatever you want to call it. It'll probably fade out a lot faster than lime compatible. It's very, very important. Don't take a chance, especially if you're doing it for a customer. You don't want to have any issues. Grasello plaster cleans up with soap and water, interior, exterior, highly polishing plaster. I can get this to a mirror gloss. That being said, today it's just going to be a medium. We're going to use it in a non-traditional way, with more of a decorative finish. I've tinted it to a dark chocolate color, and I'm going to put it on real thin for my base coat. Now today I'm going to be going top to bottom. I'm not going to be doing it to any type of traditional movement at all. It's a very linear finish. So if I'm doing a wall, I actually start at the bottom, come up from my baseboard towards my ceiling. I cannot get enough plaster on here today to do anything. Coming up. And the reason I start at the bottom is because I'm going to hide the line. So I'm not going to be able to come from the floor all the way up, or I'm not going to be able to come from the ceiling all the way down. So what this is going to do, I'll come up like so. I do want to get 100% covered. Not too thick though. If you go too thick, this is going to crack. Then I would come from top down. And as I come from the top down, my stop is going to be staggered. I don't want to stop like this and have a straight line across the surface. That would be a bad thing. I don't want to have a very pronounced spaghetti line or wet noodle look. That would be very pronounced. So what I'm going to do is just simply like this. Now I got too much on the surface. I can't win today. All right. So if you can see that, it's kind of staggered around. All right. Now, another thing I'm going to do, my spatula, high quality stainless steel. I just want a little bit on here because I'm going to come down, and as I come down, I'm going to just less and less pressure. And what this is going to do, and hopefully you can see it, it's creating a little. How can I do it over here maybe? Let me get some more plaster on here. So what it does is I come down with a light pressure. See all that fun stuff? That's what I want. And honestly, it's a little okay if some of this pokes through on the primer because we're going to go with so many colors. Well, not so many colors, but multiple layers. We're going to have a dark brown like you see now, light brown, yellow white with the brown wax. Okay, so there's part one. Actually, I'm just going to go back over it real quick to get that little fun interest that I'm looking for. There we go. Okay. let's play the drying game, because for this one we want each layer to be 100% dry in between coats. So see it when it's dry. Okay, I want to show you something real quick while this is drying. And it's drying in that one particular spot for a particular reason. Hairdryer. Lime plaster. See how much lighter that gets? Some colors can dry up as much as 40% lighter than when it's wet. So if you're making a custom color, always make a dry sample, because when you're mixing it up in the can and you like that beautiful dark blood red, you put it on the wall and you go get a cup of coffee and you come back and you're like, it's pink. It can happen. So always make a dry sample. Back to drying. Dry. Now, I'm going to take my spatula and remember those little cool marks I was making? Well, they weren't turning out so cool over here. So I'm going to do it now that it's dry, so they'll really stand out. So I was using this spatula a little earlier. I'm going to step it up. Okay, that's how I load it. Just on the top. Light pressure, let it drag down the surface. I almost have this completely flat against this surface. Almost flat. All right, it's probably, I mean, like, I don't know, 5-degree angle. It's real. I mean, it's almost dragging right here. Oops, I don't want that so thick up there. You're not going to see it anyway. I really want it down and through here. That's all I need. Dry, moving on. It's dry, we're moving on. So now what I'm going to do is take my base color. I'm going to put the white tint base, so the plaster straight out of the bucket, mix it in there, probably about 25% white plaster to 75, so 1 to 3. If I want a lighter color, then I have it. Now I'm going to take my big spatula, my other plaster, the lighter brown. Now when I do this, I don't want to take it all the way down. I want to stop. You got to be careful with how much plaster you put on here. Too much and it's going to get a smeared mess up here. Don't want that. I want to get, meaning I could get it. I want to gradually get it to where I want it. I don't want too much on too soon. So it's like less is more. Alright. Okay. So I want to kind of have a nice, this up here can be a little flat, smooth. I want a little bit more interest down here, because it's going to go from brown, dark brown, light brown, yellow, off-white. So let's just kind of speed it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. All right. And again, this trowel spatula is pretty flat. Up here it's not so flat, and it gets flatter, see? Flatter, I get it. Flatter, I get it. The more cool, funky stuff happens, and that's what we want. All that little gnarly texture popping. Okay. Dry time. See you in a bit. Dry. Okay, our next color, the yellow ochre. We're going to do the same thing we just did with that lighter brown. Exact same thing. Whoops. Don't want to push too hard on it. Ugh. Helps if I can keep it in my hand. I know what you're thinking. A whole wall would take some time. Yeah, it would. Take a lot of time. part of it. So as I come down, my step, okay? Now, I know I'm using a hairdryer in between to do these things, to dry them. Ugh, the two metal tools just touched it. Made my, hate that sound. Hairdryer in between. Be careful, because you hold that hairdryer on these things too long in the spot, and you'll make these plasters crack. If you want to make them crack, you use the crackle medium underneath or in the plaster. There's all kinds of additives, but that's for another video, because you can't control the crack with a hairdryer. You can kind of to a degree, but you don't want to. It's risky. Oh, did it again. Oh, I hate that sound. So I don't like how this is happening. No big deal. It's just plaster. And come back and that's what I want. Just take my time. See that? Much better. I know what somebody's probably thinking. That would make a hell of a looking room. This is more of an accent wall, that's why. You wouldn't do a whole room. You could. Better be a big room because it's going to be busy. Too busy for me in a whole room, but it'd be an awesome accent wall. You could even do this on some columns. Niche. I'm not quite happy right there with that line. No, not at all. Even some of that right there can go. Switch up my tool a little bit so I can get into other areas. Because what's going to happen, texture, texture, no texture, the tool's going to keep riding on my textures. So I just switch the size of the tool to get into other areas. They make these in all different widths. They're awesome. Ah, see, I made that. Trying to look and see how it looks from your point of view, because from here it's not bad. I like it, but right there could use a little bit of work. Right there could have pinch, and right in here. Alrighty, I think we're ready to let this dry and we can move on to the next color. Daggone it, see that? Sometimes you got to know when to stop and get your hands out of it, or you're going to just make it worse. Okay, that's I'm happy with. Dry time, see you in a bit. Dry, ready to move on. So now I'm just going to take my tint base, the white Grasello, right out of the can. No color added. It's going to look, it's pretty white, but it is transparent. So it doesn't have a ton of titanium dioxide in it, but it has a fair amount. So now what we're going to do is, just like we've done in the past, we're going to put some white on our spatula and come across. Gotta be careful. I'm getting too much like lines. I don't like the lines. There we go. So the blade was a little too big or too wide, because at the top I kind of want it to be a little more together, not so far apart. Okay. There we go. And I'm getting all that fun stuff down here. And I can bring some of it down. It's kind of fun to bring it down there more. Old deteriorated plaster wall. How cool. The colors kind of remind me of something from, like, you know, down in Spain. Alright, let's keep this almost. Okay, we're getting close. There, I like it. Okay, we're going to let it dry. And then we're going to get out our brown wax and finish it off. So yes, it's going to be finished with brown antiquing wax. We'll let this dry. See you in a little bit. Okay, so before this is dry, I'm going to take my hairdryer. I'm going to hold it in a couple spots and make it crack. So unfortunately, it's going to be a little loud. And I apologize, but there's no other way I can do that. I'm just going to hold it for a split second. That's it. It cracks that bad. I just want small cracks. Okay, so now I'm going to let it dry 100%. We'll come back. Next step. Dry. Let's go on. Now, what I'm going to do, take a little piece of sandpaper and just kind of lightly hit some of this, because I want it to be old and worn. Make sure you wear a mask. I wouldn't use a like a mechanical sander, just because it's going to take too much off. I'm not trying to rip through it. Some spots I want to, but I'm just trying to kind of, I want when you touch them with that old worn feel, wipe it off. Look at all that dust. Ho, ho, ho. If you're going to do that at somebody's house, kill the air conditioning, turn the heat off, whatever. You don't want that going to the ventilation system. Okay, next step, wax. So what we're going to do, because we're going to be using a brown antiquing wax at the very last step, I'm going to take my rag, some clear wax, and I'm going to coat this whole thing with the clear wax to start with. I should have started at the top and worked down, because I don't want to reactivate or grab some of that brown color and bring it back up, which I kind of did. It's not a big deal. The reason I'm ragging this on instead of troweling this on, it's real simple. See, I'm pulling this color back up to here. No big deal. I'm going to put some brown up there anyway, but this way I can just control it. But the reason for the rag and not the trowel is because we have a texture, and the trowel is going to put a lot of wax in certain areas and not enough wax in other areas. I'm going to just kind of pull some of this off. The beauty of it. I just want it sealed. Okay, let it sit. Now see, if I troweled that on, that wax would be really thick, and I'd take a long time to dry, and it might get too thick in spots and be cloudy. So now I'll just take my dry clean rag, polish this out a little bit. Okay, now I'll take my brown wax. I think this is it. This is it. The reason I'm saying I think this is it is because I have so much stuff here in front of me. I need to clean my table. Okay. Yeah, this is it. All right, small amounts of brown. And we're going to come in here just like so. See my cracks coming up? There's those cracks. Wax is still a little too dark. Should have diluted a pinch more, but we'll fix it. It's not the end of the world. But what I'm trying to do is get my brown down into my cracks, like I did, and then I'm going to come back with some clear wax and just kind of soften this up a little bit because this is a little too much. No big deal. I think it's a little too much. Everybody has everybody likes things a little bit different than everybody else, and that's the way it should be. But I don't like, for me personally, I just want it a little softer. I'm just going to take my clear wax like so. So it's going to stay down in my cracks. And it's going to remove off the highs. There you go. That's what I want. I really want those cracks to pop. Yeah. I know what you're thinking. It's going to be a busy wall. You know, I could see this in a Spanish restaurant. I want to get rid of my streak, so I'm just going to kind of go back and forth a little bit. In a Mediterranean restaurant, I could totally see this in there. Somebody's house, man. Who cares? If you like it, you do it. Just don't be too gaudy about it. Okay. So we're going to let that sit up. Get another clean rag. Polish that up. Remember, it's always lint-free, color-free rags with wax. Simply because you saw how the wax pulled the brown color up here. If you have a color in your rag, it can do that the same thing. So I'm going to polish up here first, just to get it up there. Get that nice luster. Man, I wish you could feel it. You have no idea how this wax is. And this is the Italian polishing wax. I can't remember if I talked about it, but it's the Italian polishing wax. It washes off your hands with soap and water. You clean your tools up with mineral spirits into your exterior, and it'll polish to a super high gloss or a nice warm luster. And I'm going for that nice warm luster. Okay, I'm going to take the tape off, come back, and let's wrap this guy up. Okay, there it is. We're finished with it. Tape is off. Nice. Like I said, great accent wall. Any space you could think of. If it's a big room, you can pull it off. Heck, frame it, hang on a wall like a piece of art. But let's see here. I got to be careful because I'm still using these styrene boards because I just need to cut some hard boards. If I bend this too much, it's going to pop. See those cracks? Oh, look at that. Look at this luster. I don't know if you can see me in it. Probably not. It's got too much texture to really be that reflective, but you get the idea. Look at that. See the cracks in there? All that fun stuff down in there. All right, that's it. We'll just simply call it Spanish plaster. How's that? Sounds good? There you go. My name is Ron Layman. I'm from the Faux School in Frederick, Maryland, where I teach decorative painting workshops, and I do travel the country teaching workshops. And I travel with going around doing residential, commercial projects, you name it, we'll decorate it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.